And we're back. Part 4. Part 4 of our AI-generated story time. Last episode, we went through Trenton. We met the rebels. We got locked up for a brief moment. We escaped. And now we are in the small village of the Lonesome Vale. We have found Remy, who's joined our team. He is a rebel and he wants to go to the capital to figure out who killed the king. Because he thinks maybe, you know, they'd get on or something. And the gang has just gone to the inn of the Lonesome Vale to rest. And I think this is a perfect time to reintroduce the reoccurring nightmare. The innkeeper looks at the group and replies, 5 silver pieces per night per room, and we have a few rooms available if you're interested. Kolo nods and hands over the necessary silver pieces. We'll take 3 rooms, please. The innkeeper nods and hands over 3 sets of keys. Here you go. Enjoy your stay at the Lonesome Vale Inn. Kolo and his friends make their way to their respective rooms, and after a long day, they all fall asleep almost immediately. Ooh. Ooh. I was supposed to add in the nightmare, but I accidentally pressed enter instead of shift enter to move down. And something's happening. The group splits themselves into their 3 rooms respectively. Thane and Arin take 1 room, Erevan and Glim take another, and Kolo, Seraphina and Remy take the 3rd. The group all go to their rooms and begin to rest for the night. As they rest, Kolo hears some commotion outside his room. He gets up and sees that the hallway is filled with smoke. He quickly wakes Seraphina and Remy up as they run to wake up the rest of the group. They find out that the inn is on fire, and the people are running around in panic. The group tries to find a way out, but the flames have spread quickly and they're trapped. Kolo thinks quickly and suggests they try and break through the window. They gather some items and use them to break the glass. The group jumps out of the window and lands onto a pile of hay below. They quickly run away from the burning inn. As they look back, they see the flames that have spread to nearby buildings as well. They continue to run until they reach a safe place. Once they catch their breath, Thane looks at Kolo and asks, "What do we do now? We have no supplies, no money, and nowhere to stay." Wow, okay. Kolo looks around the group and makes sure everyone's okay. As he is doing that, he hears a shout from the innkeeper who screams, "It was him! He burnt down my inn!" Kolo and his friends look on to see a lone figure running between the buildings to escape the scene of the crime. Kolo looks at Thane. "We can't let him get away," he shouts. Thane nods in agreement and the group quickly take chase of the mysterious figure. As they run through the town, they notice that the figure is moving quickly and skillfully, navigating the town with ease. They quickly realize that he is not an ordinary criminal, but rather someone who is experienced in evading pursuit. The figure turns down an alleyway and the group follows him. As they turn the corner, they see that the figure has disappeared. They search the area, but find no trace of him. Kolo looks around frustratedly. "He must have escaped through some secret passage or something," he says. "We need to regroup and come up with a new plan." The group nods in agreement and they make their way back to the inn, hoping to gather more information about the mysterious figure and his whereabouts. The group return to the inn and help put out the fires with the local villagers before it spreads too far. Kolo turns to his group and asks them all to individually ask around and see if they can learn anything about this mysterious criminal. The group splits up and starts asking around the villagers, but most of them seem to be too afraid to say anything, as they fear the criminal might come after them. However, Erevan manages to gather some information from the local blacksmith, who mentions that the criminal is likely part of a local bandit gang that has been causing trouble in the area. Remy, who has experience with such groups, suggests that they should try to find out where the bandits' hideout is and take them out before they can cause any more trouble. Thane agrees and adds they should also try to find out who is backing the bandits and why they are causing chaos in the area. Kolo nods in agreement and adds that they should start gathering information from the villagers discreetly to avoid any unwanted attention. The group spends the next few days gathering information and scouting the area until they finally manage to locate their bandit hideout. They plan their attack and launch a surprise assault on the bandits, taking them out one by one. During the fight, they manage to capture one of the bandits and interrogate him. The bandit reveals that they were hired by a wealthy merchant in the nearby city of Lyndhurst to cause chaos in the area, as part of a larger scheme to drive down the value of the land to buy it up cheap. With this new information, the group decides to head towards Lyndhurst and investigate the merchant's involvement in the bandit attacks. Okay, so we're going to a new town called Lyndhurst. The group begin travelling to Lyndhurst, exhausted after only getting a couple hours of sleep before the fire broke out. "Perhaps we should set up a camp," Seraphina suggests. "It's still dark, and some of us could use the extra hours," she adds, looking at Glim, who's trying to conceal their yawn. Kolo nods in agreement. "Yes, that sounds like a good idea. We can set up camp and rest for a few hours before continuing on to Lyndhurst," he says, looking around the group. Thane speaks up. "I'll take first watch. The rest of you get some rest," he says, taking out his sword and looking around the area for any signs of danger. The group quickly sets up camp and settles down to rest, knowing that they have a long journey ahead of them. Okay, so now we get the nightmare, yes. Okay, this is a pretty big paragraph, so I don't want to. I'm curious to see if the AI makes sense of it. As the group crawls into their respective tents and fall asleep, Kolo finally gets the chance to lay down and rest his eyes. Since the last time he slept, Kolo has been through a lot. A familiar sensation occurs. The area around him is getting warmer. Sweat beads begin to form and fall down the sides of Kolo's face. He jumps out of bed and runs down the stairs and out to the street. Fires are burning. He looks out to his neighbours to see them being pillaged and murdered. Humans are dragging elves from their homes and killing them. He turns back to his house to see his mother being dragged away, his brother fighting off the humans for a moment before he is overwhelmed and killed. As Kolo looks on, he is met by a large knight in plate armour. The knight lifts his blade over Kolo's head and swings down. Kolo screams in terror as the blade misses and hits the ground beside him. Kolo looks on in shock as the knight grabs him and pulls him away from the massacre. Kolo awakens. He looks on to see his friends all asleep. Seraphina now taking over from Thane, keeping a lookout. "Were you having a nightmare?" she asks. "You talk a lot in your sleep," she says, looking over to Kolo with a worried expression on her face. Let's see what the AI has made of that. Kolo nods silently, his heart still racing from the vivid dream. "It was just a nightmare," he reassures Seraphina. "A memory from my past." Ooh. So we're finally starting to realise that these are nightmares, but they're also memories from his past as a child, and not just made up. Seraphina looks at Kolo with sympathy. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," she says, softly, "but you are not alone anymore. We're here for you, and will help you through it." Kolo manages a small smile, grateful for the support of his friends. "Thank you, Seraphina," he says. "I really appreciate it." As the night wears on, the group takes turn keeping watch and resting, readying themselves for the next leg of their journey to Lyndhurst. Despite the nightmare, Kolo is able to get some much-needed rest, and he wakes up feeling more refreshed and ready to face whatever challenges may lie ahead. Aww. That's very similar to how Thane talked to Kolo after his nightmare as well. As the group march on towards Lyndhurst, Erevan can't help but shake a concerned look from her face. "Is something on your mind?" Kolo asks as he glances over to her. She looks over and back at him. "It just doesn't make sense to me. A simple bandit group burns down an inn? That seems pretty extreme. And that criminal, that was no simple bandit. The way he moved seemed like he was an experienced man, maybe even an assassin." The group looks in shock. "Do you think someone sent an assassin to kill us?" Glim says in both disbelief and shock. It wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility," Erevan replies. "We've been seeing a lot of weird things happen recently." Kolo nods in response. "I kind of think that shadow might have something to do with this. I just hope we can find more answers from this merchant in Lyndhurst." The group finally reaches Lyndhurst, a bustling town with a large market and various shops. They make their way to the merchant's store, hoping to find more information about the criminal and the mysterious fires. Oh, so they brushed over my assassin shout. I hope they... I don't know. The merchant, a middle-aged man with a thick beard, greets them as they enter. "Greetings, travellers. What can I help you with?" he asks. Kolo steps forward and says, "We were hoping you could help us with some information. We're investigating the recent fires and criminal activity in the area." The merchant's expression turns serious. "Ah, yes, I've heard about that. It's been causing quite the stir around here. What do you need to know?" "We're looking for some information about a criminal who burnt down an inn in the town of Lonesome Vale," Kolo says. The merchant thinks for a moment, stroking his beard. "I haven't heard anything specific, but I have noticed some suspicious activity around the town recently. There have been some new faces appearing in the market. People who don't seem to have any business here. They've been keeping to themselves, but it's definitely caught my attention." Kolo nods. "Thank you for the information. We'll keep an eye out for any suspicious individuals." As the group leaves the merchant store, they discuss what they've learned. "It seems like we're getting closer to the truth," Thane says, "but we still have a long way to go." Kolo agrees. "We need to keep investigating and gathering information. We can't let this criminal get away with what he's done." "I suppose the only thing we can do now is split up and look out for anyone who looks suspicious. Arin, come with me and we'll scout the perimeter of the town. Seraphina and Thane, go and look around the tavern. Glim, Remy and Erevan..." Oh, that should be a full stop. "Go and look around the tavern. Glim, Remy and Erevan, stay here around the merchants and keep an eye out for anyone coming and leaving." Kolo tells the group, and with that, they all separate and begin looking around. As Kolo and Arin scout the perimeter of the town, they notice a group of shady-looking characters gathered in a corner, whispering to themselves. Kolo and Arin approach them cautiously, trying not to draw too much attention to themselves. As they get closer, they hear snippets of conversation. "The Shadow will not be pleased if we fail," one of them says. Kolo and Arin exchange a look. This was not good news. They quickly retreat and make their way back to the rest of the group to inform them what they've discovered. Thane and Seraphina report no suspicious activity at the tavern, but Glim, Remy, and Erevan had spotted a group of men dressed in black robes coming in and out of the merchant stalls, seemingly taking note of everything that was being traded. The group regroup and share their findings. It's clear that something is going on here, and it's not a simple case of an inn being burnt down, Kolo says. We need to find out what they're planning and put a stop to it before it's too late. The group nods in agreement and begin to formulate a plan to uncover the truth. The group discuss... let's get rid of this first. The group discuss what to do, and decide that they are more likely to spot these shady characters reporting to each other during the night. So Kolo and Arin return back to the same spot where they heard the shady-looking characters that mentioned the shadow, and wait there until nightfall to try and gain more information. Everyone else stays in the same spot. Thane and Seraphina stay at the tavern, and Glim, Erevan, and Remy spend the night scoping out the merchant stores. Let's see if anyone learns anything. As night falls, Kolo and Arin hide in the shadows near the spot where they heard the conversation earlier. They wait patiently, watching for any suspicious activity. After some time, they notice a figure moving stealthily through the streets, heading towards their direction. Kolo and Arin stay quiet, watching as the figure comes closer. As the figure approaches, Kolo and Arin can see that it is the same man they saw earlier that day, the one who had mentioned the shadow. The man looks around, making sure that he's not being followed, before approaching a hidden door in the side of a building. He knocks on the door, and after a few moments, it opens to reveal another man inside. The two exchange words in hushed tones, but Kolo and Arin can't make out what they're saying. Kolo decides to take a risk and sneak closer to eavesdrop on their conversation. He motions for Arin to stay put, and moves quietly towards the buildings. As he gets closer, he can hear the men talking about a plan to assassinate someone. Ooh. But they don't mention any names. Kolo tries to get closer, but steps on a twig, alerting the men to his presence. The two men draw their weapon, and Kolo prepares to fight. Before he could make a move, a group of guards burst onto the scene, drawn by the commotion. The two men try to flee, but the guards catch them and arrest them. Kolo and Arin step forward, revealing themselves to be travellers who had been caught up in the commotion. The guards let them go, but warn them to stay out of trouble. Kolo and Arin return to their campsite, where the rest of the group is waiting. They share what they have overheard and discuss their next move. It's clear that the Shadow is involved in some kind of assassination plot, but they still don't know who the target is. They decide to stay in Lyndhurst a little longer, to see if they can gather more information. Kolo and Arin tell the group that they overheard two men talking about an assassination plot, but they were arrested before they could discover who they were trying to assassinate. After a few moments of thinking, eventually Thane speaks up. It looks like the only thing for us to do is to go to the jails and pay this prisoner a visit. Maybe he'll tell us what we need to know. Kolo nods in agreement before adding, I think you're right, but the guard will never allow such a large group to visit one prisoner. Thane, me and you will go, while everyone else rests until morning. Thane nods, and they make their way to the jail, trying to figure out how they can convince the guards to let them to speak to the prisoner. As they arrive, they see a few guards standing outside. Excuse me, Thane says, approaching the guards. We were hoping to speak to a prisoner who was arrested for the assassination plot. We believe he may have information that could be crucial to our investigation. The guards eyes Thane and Kolo suspiciously before nodding and saying, very well, but only two of you may enter, and we'll be keeping a close eye on you. Thane and Kolo nod in agreement and follow the guard into the jail. They are led to a small cell where a figure is sitting on a bench with their head bowed. The guard says you have 10 minutes before leaving them alone with the prisoner. Thane and Kolo approach the prisoner and Thane clears his throat. We were hoping you could give us some information about the assassination plot, he says. The prisoner looks up at them, his face worn and tired. I don't know who they were planning to kill. I was just hired to carry out the deed, he says, his voice hoarse. Kolo leans in. Who hired you? He asks, hoping to gain some more information. The prisoner looks hesitant for a moment before sighing. I don't know his name. He was a tall man with a scar on his face. He approached me and offered a large sum of money to carry out the assassination. Thane and Kolo exchange a look. Do you have any idea where we could find him? Thane asks. The prisoner shakes his head. I'm sorry, I don't. He just said he would contact me when the job was done. Thane nods. Thank you for your time, he says before they leave the cell and exit the jail. As they walk back to the inn, Thane turns to Kolo. It's not much, but at least we have a lead. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled for someone with a scar on their face. Kolo nods in agreement. We'll have to be careful though. We don't know what he's capable of. Come to think of it, when I first met the Shadow... I should capitalise the Shadow, so the story knows that I'm talking about someone, and not just a shadow. Come to think of it, when I first met the Shadow, I noticed he kept his face covered. Maybe he could be the one carrying out this assassination, Kolo says to Thane. Thane looks on, worried. I don't like the sound of this Shadow. It seems like he's always around us. The two of them head back to the inn, and report their findings to the rest of the group. As Kolo and Thane reach the inn, they quickly gather everyone together and discuss their next plan of action. Kolo fills everyone in on their conversation with the prisoner and the possibility that the Shadow may be involved in an assassination plot. The group discusses the situation, and they agreed they need to gather more information before they can make any conclusions. They decide to split up once again and investigate different areas of the town. Seraphina and Thane head to the local blacksmith to ask around and see if they can learn anything about the Shadow or any unusual weapon orders. Glim, Remy, and Erevan check out the local library and see if there are any books or scrolls that may contain information about the Shadow or the history of the town. Meanwhile, Kolo and Arin head back to the jail to see if they can speak with the prisoner again and gather more information about the assassination plot and the Shadow's involvement. After a few hours of investigating, the group meets back at the inn to share their findings. Seraphina and Thane learn that the blacksmith had received an unusual order for a long, slender blade that could easily be concealed. Glim, Remy, and Erevan found a few old scrolls mentioning the Shadow, but the information was limited and vague. Kolo and Arin were able to speak with the prisoner once again, and he revealed that the assassination target was a nobleman. No! He didn't know who hired him or what he was working with him, but he did mention that the payment was quite high. The group now has a clearer idea of what's going on, but they need to act fast before it's too late. They make plans to head into the city and stop the assassination. Okay, I'm gonna try and alter the story here. The prisoner reveals that it was a young elven wizard. That was the assassination target, not a nobleman. I would love to see if they rewrite this paragraph. Kolo and Thane are shocked to hear that the assassination target was actually a young elven wizard, not a nobleman, as they had previously assumed. Why would anyone want to assassinate a wizard? Thane asks, puzzled. The prisoner shrugs. I don't know. Maybe they were threatened by his magic or saw him as a potential threat. All I know is that I was paid to carry out the job. Kolo and Thane exchange a worried glance. If someone is willing to pay to have a wizard assassinated, it could mean they have posed a significant threat. Thank you for your help, Kolo says to the prisoner before turning to Thane. We need to find this wizard and warn him. But first, we should report this to the authorities and see if they can provide us with any additional information. Thane nods in agreement, and the two of them quickly leave the jail and return to the rest of the group. As Thane and Kolo approach the local guard to inform them that there is an assassination after a young elven wizard, they are stopped by a group of hooded men. You shouldn't try to get in the way of what needs to be done, one of the hooded men says in a hushed tone. Who are you? Kolo asks. Do you know about the elven wizard? He adds, The group of men all look between one another, surprised to know that Kolo and Thane know about the assassination target. The Shadow will not be happy about this. No one is supposed to know that Seraphina is the target, the hooded man says angrily to his fellow group members. Kolo and Thane exchange a shocked glance, and Kolo shouts, What? Seraphina is the target? And we'll see what he says. The hooded man nods his head. Yes, and now that you know, you'll have to be dealt with. The group of hooded men begin to draw their weapons, and Kolo and Thane quickly unsheathe their own swords. They stand their ground preparing for the incoming attack. Just as the hooded men are about to charge, a group of guards arrive on the scene, alerted by the commotion. The hooded men scatter, disappearing into the night. The guards question Kolo and Thane about what happened, and they explain everything, including the fact that Seraphina is the target of the assassination. The guards immediately spring into action, sending out patrols to search for any suspicious activity or individuals. Meanwhile, back at the inn, the rest of the group is shocked to hear about Seraphina being the target. They quickly gather their belongings and make their way to the guard station to offer their help in protecting Seraphina. The group decides to split up, with some members staying in the guard station to help with the patrols, while others go to Seraphina's room to ensure she is safe. As the night wears on, tensions are high and everyone keeps a watchful eye for any signs of danger. The group remains on high alert, determined to protect Seraphina at all costs. The group splits up. Thane, Erevan and Remy go to the guard station and help patrol the area, whilst Kolo, Glim and Arin stay with Seraphina in her room to protect her. Do you know why you'd be targeted, Seraphina? Kolo asks. Seraphina replies, Do you remember what Talos said? Anyone with a close relationship with the late king are in great danger. I didn't really know the king, but they know how close Talos was with him. I imagine they see me as a threat the same way they see him as one. They see Talos as one. Kolo nods in understanding. That does make sense, but we won't let anything happen to you. We'll make sure to protect you with everything we've got. Glim and Arin nod in agreement. The night passes by without any incidents, and the group decides to leave Lyndhurst as soon as possible to avoid any further danger. They gather their things and head out of town, keeping a watchful eye on for any suspicious activity. As they travel, they discuss their next steps and how they can best protect themselves from and each other. Eventually, they come to a decision to head to Talos' hometown, hoping to find some clues or answers that could lead them to the Shadow and his plans. With his new plan in mind, they continue their journey, determined to uncover the truth and stop the Shadow's evil schemes. So the group close in on the town of Ravenstead, Talos' hometown. Seraphina tells the group, "Me and Talos passed through here on the way to Hallidale. I remember Talos stopped off at his home, and I don't know why. Perhaps we could find some clues about the Shadow or anything else to do with the king's death." The group decides to split up again to cover more ground. Kurlo, Glim, and Arin head towards the town square to ask around about Talos and his family. Erevan and Remy go to the local tavern to see if they can gather any information from the locals. Thane and Seraphina go to Talos' family home to investigate. Thane and Seraphina arrive at the family home and find it abandoned, except for a few rats scurrying about. As they explore the house, they come across a hidden room. Inside, they find a chest with a note that reads, "For Talos in case of emergency." The chest contains a letter, a map, and a strange amulet. Meanwhile, Kurlo, Glim, and Arin ask around the town square to eventually find an old friend of Talos'. The man tells them that Talos had a reputation for being an excellent tracker and hunter, but he was also known to be fiercely loyal to the king. The man also tells them that Talos' family was shunned by the town after Talos left to serve the king, but nobody knows why he left. At the tavern, Erevan and Remy overhear some locals talking about a strange man who has been asking questions about Talos and his family. The man is described as tall and pale, with jet black hair and a scar on his face. The group reconvenes outside of town to share their findings. They realise that the man in the tavern must be the Shadow, and that he's likely looking for the same information they are. They decide to continue their investigation, but they now know they need to be careful. Gang, this is where we're going to end part 4 of our story. Next episode we're going to involve the letter, and we're going to travel to the capital. And then maybe 1 or 2 episodes after that, and we'll call that at the end to like season 1. Gang, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Until then, stay safe.